Hey, welcome to this new video. Today we're going to continue the series on solving tactics while explaining the thought process. And if you've seen any of the previous episodes, you'll understand that the thought process is sort of simple. It just has to be practiced a lot until we get very good at it and it becomes subconscious. So today we're gonna start with a puzzle that's rated around 1750, and we'll see how far we go. So as usual, I would suggest pausing the video before every puzzle and trying to solve the puzzle yourself. This way you'll get the most out of the video, and after you've solved it correctly or incorrectly, you can compare your thought process to mine and see what differences there were. So pause the video, try to solve this one, and okay. So again, checks, captures, and attacks should be looked at. What are the checks here? Also, let's mention we are a rook down, so we will probably have to do quite a lot in this puzzle. Also, he has a lot of passed pawns. So checks, g4 or rook h6, right? There are two checks. If g4, king h4, again we can look at candidate moves there. Knight g2 is a check, or rook h6. But neither seem to go anywhere. If here, then king g5, I can't see a good check. Rook g6 doesn't work. And if knight g2 after g4, then he can take the pawn. And I don't see a continuation there. Otherwise, there is rook h6, which looks a bit more interesting. Rook h4 is white's only legal move, so there's not much to calculate. There we could win a rook, but after white recaptures, even though we won a rook, our position is losing because white has two connected passed pawns here. But if we look for more candidate moves, we can see a check with g4, which is checkmate because the rook is pinned. So this is a two-move checkmate, and the important part here was to look for more candidate moves than to win a rook in one move. Checkmate is better. Okay, you can pause your video, try to find the solution, and let's try to solve this one. So the material is about equal. Let's try to look for checks, captures, and attacks. So the checks are this and this. Neither look any good. So we will look for captures. Captures here. So we can take the rook. The candidates for black are either taking with the queen or with the rook. If the queen takes, then queen e6 looks promising. But if the rook takes, then bishop b2 looks promising. So this already looks interesting. So if rook takes bishop b2, I don't really see a problem with this. It seems that we are winning an exchange, right? So I guess after rook d4, black has to take back with the queen. Then, as mentioned, queen takes e6 is an interesting move. Now I see the king can't go to these two squares because then bishop b2 will skewer the queen with the king. This is a typical pattern. So which leaves black to just go king h7. So rook d4, queen d4, queen e6, king h7. So far we have won a pawn, but is this enough? What are the candidate moves there? There's this check and this check. Well, this does look promising. We have won a pawn and it seems we might win another pawn. We'll get back to this. I wanted to also check bishop b2, but now that I look at it, it doesn't work at all because he can take, and queen takes b2. So it seems like bishop b2 is the move. No, wait, I confused myself. Rook d4 is the move. So if queen takes, queen e6, I don't think we need really a continuation there. It seems like the position is generally winning. So let's go for it. Let's take, yeah, here as mentioned, this is a skewer. So if the queen had taken, this looks good. So if the king goes here or h8, then we win the queen like this. So this is the only interesting continuation. But I believe there's more than one good move here. The simplest is probably to give this check, with the idea that if black goes here, then this is quite winning. And if here, then at minimum we can exchange queens and go to an endgame, but we can even just take the pawn, and we're 2 pawns up. This king is very weak. So let's go further. Okay, so you can pause your video and try to solve this one. But it seems that this one is very simple. Checks, captures, and attacks. Well, out of the checks, 2 of them don't really make sense, but knight f6 is a fork. And black has to go king h8. And there, I don't think we should take the rook, because after rook takes f3, we will be a knight up, which I guess should be close to winning, but even better is just checkmate in 1. So we always look for candidate moves, and checks can be for captures, so this is a mate in 1. It's interesting to note, if here, then I guess, yeah, the engine says this is also winning. I was looking at this, but clearly this is a lot more difficult than giving a mate in 1. So here we go. Okay, next one. What's going on here? Okay, we are down a piece at the moment. Our queen is attacked. This should not discourage us. We should always look for forcing moves. So, checks, captures, and attacks. Pause your video if you haven't already to solve the puzzle. Now I'll try to solve it myself. So, checks, knight d3, knight b3, queen takes b2. These are the checks. Queen takes b2 doesn't lead anywhere. Knight d3, he has to take with the queen. Then we're 2 pieces down. I guess we can take a knight, but that won't be enough. Knight b3, I don't think there's any continuation after rook b3, say. So, so capture. So rook takes d4 comes to mind. This is basically the only capture. This isn't really important. So rook takes d4 captures a knight, and I can see that if the queen takes back, we will have this discover check as the queen is on d4 with knight b3. So we will win a queen there. So after rook takes d4, I guess white cannot take back. If he takes here, we will take the queen with the check, and we'll win a rook at the end. So it seems like we're winning a piece in 1 move, and we're also threatening knight d3 next move. So this seems correct. Yeah, white takes here, but the point was to create this discover check and take the queen, not with the knight, but with the queen. Okay, next puzzle. What do we have here? So we're kind of getting checkmated, but it's our move. So pause your video and let's try to solve this one. So checks, captures, attacks. What are the checks? Rook h7, queen d4, queen e5. Basically that's it. These don't really count. So rook h7, I don't really see a continuation there. Queen d4 or queen e5. I think queen e5 makes a bit more sense to not block the rook. So we'll check that first. So after queen e5, it seems black has to go queen f6, because if the king moves, then this or this is checkmate. So after queen e5, queen f6 seems like the only move. Then what are the candidate moves? We have rook d7 as a check, after which, what can black do? So queen e5, queen f6, rook d7. So it's either king g8 or rook f7. So if rook f7, what can we do after rook f7? We should look at rook takes f7. The king will take back. And then we have this check with rook h7. And it seems that we will win the queen because the king will have to defend the queen on f6. And anywhere we go, anywhere it goes, we will take the queen. Which means that after rook d7, rook f7 cannot be played. Which means king g8 is the only move to consider. So queen e5, queen f6, rook d7, king g8. What are the candidate moves there? Well, I see one check at least, queen d5, after which the king cannot move anywhere. The only move seems to be rook d7. Right. What about rook d7? So queen e5, here, here, here. I mean rook f7. We cannot take the rook, importantly, because it's not a check, and queen b2 mate is threatened. So, what can we do there? Oops, not rook f7, king g8, queen d5, rook f7. So, seems not to be so promising after all. So, okay, what else can we do? Queen e5, queen f6. I don't really see anything else there. Rook d7, rook f7 just looks very promising. I mean, again, I'm saying rook f7, but we mentioned that this will not work. Perhaps king g8. We could exchange queens, but this doesn't seem to lead anywhere. It's hard to say. I think I see it. I forgot to mention a very nice candidate move. So queen e5, queen f6, rook d7, king g8. I forgot to mention this check rook h8 because it looked a bit absurd, but I think it is winning. So if the queen takes, then queen d5 will be checkmate after rook f7, queen f7, right? Which means that in this position after king g8 and rook h8, if black takes with the queen, I mean the king, we can give this check on h2. If the queen blocks, we will take it, and after king g8, queen h7 is checkmate. So this is a very interesting exercise. It seems to all work out. So rook d7. Now, oh, he played rook f7. So this was a bit more simple. We will take, and the thing ends here. But after king f7, yeah, queen c7 I guess wins as well. But my point was rook h7 to win the queen like this. But more interesting, I think, is this, where we have to find rook h8. This is the key point. So if this, then I said queen d5, but queen e6 is the same. This is checkmate. And if king h8, importantly queen h2, also a check, and this is checkmate. So a more difficult one, this one, but still doable. Okay, next, what can we do here? Checks, captures, and attacks. Black is kind of skewered, so let's not waste time. Let's look for checks. The checks are what? Queen, no, this is not legal, we can't move the queen. Knight f2 or knight g3, these are the only checks. So if knight f2, I guess he can take with the knight. If I take there, I'm kind of running out of steam. But knight g3 looks a bit more interesting. He has to take it back, that's the only move. Then checks, captures, and attacks. Rook h3 is a capture and a check. And the bishop is strangely pinned on the diagonal, and the king can't move, and this means that this is checkmate. So checkmate in 2. Nice to see. Next. Okay, pause your video again, and let's try to solve this one. So where are the checks, where are the captures, and where are the attacks? So out of the checks, well, we only have 2 pieces. Rook h8 doesn't seem to do anything. Queen b1 is simply a fork. So unless there's something that we have to look for, this seems simple. Right, so after queen b1, black has some candidate moves. It seems if he moves the king or plays g6, we can take the rook. But there is this move, queen g6. There, if we take the rook, he will take ours. So what are the candidate moves after queen g6? Well, again, we look for checks, captures, and attacks in a position that we cannot see very clearly. Rook h8 is a check, which removes the defender of the queen. and we will get the queen. So this seems simple enough. Rook h8, and we're a queen up. Okay, next. Alright, so pause your video and let's try to solve this one. So checks, captures, and attacks. So the material is about equal, we're kind of pinned here. So checks, rook e8, queen h7, don't seem to lead anywhere. So we will look at captures next. What can we capture, this or this? I don't see it. Well, this isn't really a capture. So bishop c5 or bishop f6. So if bishop f6, I assume black would take our queen. Now we have this check. Then there's king h7. This looks kind of interesting, but I don't think it works out. So next is bishop takes c5. There, I guess if the rook takes our queen, we will take the black queen, and we are a piece up at the end, as the knight is defended. But after bishop takes c5, there is this in-between move, queen takes e1. And if we take back with the rook, he will take our queen. We will be down in exchange. But if we look for more candidate moves after queen c5, queen e1, we will see that the knight can go back and recapture like this, and this will defend the queen. And when black takes our queen, we will take back, and at the end we are a piece up. So this seems like the correct solution. No other lines for black. Right, so this was discussed. Knight takes c1 and knight takes c3, and we're doing very well. Okay, doing well in this one so far. So okay, pause your video, try to solve this one, and let's get to calculating. So we are an exchange down here, I guess. Alright, we have the bishop pair, which is nice, but tactics are more important. So checks, captures, and attacks. So checks, there's only one check. Black has a lot of candidate moves after this check, like knight d7, probably most natural. I don't really see a good continuation. If I take a pawn, he will go rook b8, and I'm losing the initiative. After all, these two are hanging. So captures, well, I can't take the queen. There's nothing much else to take. The pawn doesn't really matter here. Now, of course, exchanging queens in general isn't what we want, as we're down material, but chess is concrete like that, so we have to keep an eye open. So queen takes f3, he has to take back, there's nothing else. And in that position, where are the checks, captures, and attacks? Well, we see that we have this check, after which this rook on h1 is now undefended and will be taken after any black reaction. So this seems simple enough. A discovered check on the rook, and we will be up a bishop. This was a nice one. Okay, pause your video, try to solve this one, and let's try. So here we are down a knight. Where are the checks? Where are the captures? So checks here doesn't seem interesting, so no real checks. So we can go to captures. So what can we capture? We can capture the rook, or the knight, I guess, or the pawn. Mainly the rook. This is basically the only real capture. So if the rook takes here, if the queen takes back, we can take this knight, and in that position we will be up 2 pawns, right? Yeah, 2 pawns, which is good enough to win, I guess. There's this weakness, this knight is bad, so I take that as a win. So after rook f6, he has to take with the knight. Then what are the candidate moves there? There's no real captures, everything is defended. No real checks again. So attacks. Can we attack the queen? It seems like we can. So after rook f6, knight f6, knight e5 attacks the queen, and also rook e7 attacks the queen. After rook e7, I can't really see a move for black. So rook f6, knight f6, rook e7. The queen itself is trapped, which means black will have to do something special, I guess, like counterattack. Maybe knight e4. Knight e4 does look interesting. What can we do about knight e4? So rook f6, knight f6, rook e7, then knight e4. So if I take the queen, he will take my queen, and I'm not really getting anything. So here I would have to come up with something. Knight e4. I'll draw the arrows again. Knight e4. What are the candidate moves? I guess we have to move the queen somewhere. But where? Maybe we can move the queen to d7 with the idea that if the queen moves like to f5, then rook g7 will lead to checkmate on queen g7 at the end. So here, knight e4, queen d7, and if queen f6, then d5 is hanging with check, after which we will pick up the e4 knight. So I think this is the thing about knight e4. Can refute that. I was also looking at instead of knight e4 there is knight e8, but after knight e8 this knight is hanging, so this seems correct. I don't see anything else for black there. Knight b7, but worst case queen d7 and I'll pick up the knight. So okay, this looks good enough here, and the tactic doesn't ask for anything else, but this was interesting to calculate. It seems queen e5 is also working, but this was my point. So if here, then this is checkmate. Otherwise, where else can the queen go? It can go to f6, and here queen d5 as mentioned, and we will pick up the knight and we'll have 3 pawns up. What else? Knight b7, yeah, any move wins here. Knight e8, this is good enough. Okay, so a trapped piece, also a tactical motive. Okay, what's next? You can pause your video and try to solve the exercise, and okay, let's try to figure this out. So checks, captures, and attacks. We are down something, right? No, where we have a rook for 2 pieces and a pawn, a rook for 2 knights and a pawn, so we are down material. Black is threatening a queen exchange. Okay, checks. Only check is this, right? Queen b3. We're also attacking the queen, so whatever black does, it seems like we will just take the queen, right? Unless black can do something. Knight c4, we have to take with the queen, or else this will be checkmate. And there we will have an exchange up, so we'll be winning. So I don't really see a move for black. This is not possible, this is not possible, neither is queen e6. So basically after any move we will just take the queen. This seems simple enough. So only one check was enough to find it. Yeah, here as mentioned, rook takes c4 would be interesting, but sadly there's checkmate on g2. So after rook takes c4 we always have to look for the opponent's forcing move. So instead we will take with check, and here we are winning. So here we solved exercises up to a rating of about 1950. Hopefully this was useful. The puzzles are getting tougher every episode, and hopefully you solved the puzzles with me, and hopefully you improved your thought process. And see you next time.